Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Brave New Leaders, where we discuss what CEOs and business owners need to know about strategy. In the case it's the first time you're joining us, my name is Marc Sniukas. I work with CEOs and business owners on designing and executing winning strategies. And today with me, we have Simon Severino, who has written an excellent book called Strategy Sprints. It's all about accelerating growth and different 12 ways actually how to do that. And that's what we're going to discuss today. Hi, Simon. How are you?
Hey, Mark. Great to see you again. Hello, everyone.
So, Simon, tell us a little bit about just yourself. Give us a little bit of background, maybe, before we go into the book and into sales strategy.
21 years ago, I did fall in love with one topic, and that topic was strategy. I loved it because when my clients who were boards of companies, when I would say, guys, we don't have a plan yet, we don't have a direction yet, I need 4 more days with everybody from your global team. And they would say, yeah, sure, no worries. You get 4 more days with everyone. And I was like, oh my God, this is the best topic. They love it. Because if we don't have a plan on how we're going to win, which angle to attack the market, how to stay in the market, how to stay competitive, nothing else really matters. Which projects are you going to kick off if you don't know what they contribute to? So I did fall in love with this topic. Just one thing was strange. Everybody else, especially middle managers, entrepreneurs, they were not caring about the topic. They were like, oh, no, I don't need strategy. I need faster people. I need lower costs. I need higher sales. That's what I need. I don't need strategies. I mean, I don't have 3 days. And so I niched down, how you would say today, right? Everybody wants to niche down. I did niche down. Inside of market strategy, I focused and went deep into one subtopic, which is sales. And being a psychologist from my first profession, I am in love with sales anyways, because it's about the buyer psychology, understanding the other side, becoming more precise in communication. And these are things that I'm super passionate about. I want to learn about those things every day and every week.
Cool. Yeah, so we have some parallelity. I mean, in parallel here. So I started also off in this topic some 20 years ago, I would say. And yeah, so it's all about, something that's quite interesting is what you mentioned, that middle managers, they don't seem to have time for strategy. So how do you address that today? I know that you niche down, but I guess, does that help to niche down on sales strategy to make it more interesting for them, or?
It did the trick for me because I had a lot of legwork to do to explain why strategy matters. And it took 10 minutes to explain it. I usually don't have 10 minutes if somebody doesn't know me. So if they've read the book and know my YouTube work, then I might have 10 minutes. But in sales, you optimize for a quick conversation with a stranger. Like I want to get my stuff across in 10 seconds. Especially on the website, I want to get it across in 5 seconds because they click to the next thing. An email, I want to get it across in the headline, in the subject line. And so that exercise, and by the way, Twitter is a great exercise for me because I have to learn to say things in a concise way. It's like headline training. And so in this exercise of saying things in a concise way, I realized that it was easier for me to just focus on the sales part of things. And so we start usually our 90-day cycle, which is one strategy sprint, just looking at 3 revenue areas: increasing the pricing power, which is a strategy thing, but don't tell anybody. They just say, oh yeah, higher prices, cool. And higher prices means also higher win rates. So the second month is then increasing the number of clients. And the third month is increasing the frequency of the sales, which you can do either at the beginning of the sales by shortening the sales time, or you can do it at the end which means expansion selling, right? Upselling, cross-selling. So creating more work from your current clients and keeping them longer. And so this is how I can now start conversations much easier, because everybody gets it. Number of clients, shorten sales time, and expand the work. Oh yeah, I get this. It's relevant. I have the budget. Let's go. And then in the second month, then we talk about leadership and strategy. But now I have earned the right to talk about it, and I have enough attention.
Okay. So if you talk about, so I get the idea that, yeah, through the sales, you kind of entice them to enter your sprints. So if you talk strategy, a question I always ask is, how do you define strategy? What is strategy for you?
My definition is very simple. I like swimming and running, so my picture is we are swimming. It's the beginning of a triathlon. We are swimming. It's 100 people swimming, and most of the time you are heads down and you are moving when you're swimming. But from time to time, you have to lift your head and look around. Hey, am I swimming in the right direction at the right pace? Where are the others? Will I get hit? Is there something that I have to take care of? Do I need to change direction, or is it fine? Do I need to change pace, or is it fine? And so that's my picture. Usually I'm swimming, I'm heads down, but from time to time, I have to quickly, and I like to do it in sprints. So I like to do it frequently and short, because when you're in this water situation, you don't want to take 3 hours of a workshop, right? You just want to quickly check where are the others and continue. So this is my picture of strategies. From time to time, let's look at where we are, the direction and the pace, which technically is velocity. It's speed, including direction.
So you're getting your head out of the daily business, so to say, to think a little bit about, look a little bit around whether you're still going in the right direction and what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, talking about, sales strategy. So, how do you approach that then?
So, the strategy sprint, our kind of work is 3 months. That's 12 weeks, and each week solves one problem. The problem areas are, in the first month, it's 4 sprints to solve the pricing problem. Most people have a weak position in the market. They cannot command prices. They are price takers, not price givers. So the first month, we want to work on pricing power. How do you increase pricing power? There are 9 moves that you can do to increase pricing power. And there are some great examples out there that we can go through. First month is, how can we bring you in a position that is so strong that you can command higher prices for the same offers without losing win rate? And you do that by working on positioning. Second month,
which is strategy, right?
Yes, but don't tell anyone.
Right. So positioning, huh?
Yes, and positioning, of course, is one of the strategy disciplines, and I like that because that's a whiteboard exercise. And what I love to do is I do competitive analysis for them, because I did it for decades. So I'm quick. And so I usually, and now with AI prompts, we are even quicker. Some good prompts, and I come back with competitive analysis and say, guys, look, your competitor is doing this. I make screenshots of their competitors' Twitter work and ads, etc. And I bring it back and say, look, guys, that's their angle. What will be our angle? And I like it. It's a game. It's a fun game. We want to win. I want them to win. I find it intellectually stimulating. And also emotionally, because if you win, everybody's proud. If you lose, oh, so it's emotionally interesting enough.
So, I mean, you mentioned AI, and I think it's a topic that everybody is interested currently. Right? So I started also, using AI for competitive analysis, trend analysis, what's going on in the industry, and so on and so forth. So I think it's really are really quite powerful and helpful for that. And you save a lot of time actually, right? Because you can have some, instead of just starting on a blank piece of paper when having a discussion, you start with some specifics that you can dive into. So any advice or any kind of tips and tricks you could give our listeners when it comes to using AI for your competitor analysis?
Oh yes, I have a full compilation of prompts that work really well. I'm happy to share them. And
Yeah.
because you can do stuff that used to take months and was super expensive. You had to give it to a consultancy. It was super expensive. After 8 months, you would have 50 pages on slides, and now you can do it in 3 days with basically just good prompts that you give to an intern, and 3 days later you have something workable.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's really the traditional consulting model built around all that analysis. You're going to have a hard time in the future. Now, I mean, you talked about sales. What are the kind of the biggest mistakes you see people or CEOs, business owners make when it comes to sales strategy or the positioning that you mentioned?
So I see them thinking linearly instead of exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
Examples.
Yeah.
They think in milestones and in achievable working packages instead of thinking which of our activities build upon each other and which one compound over time.
Mm-hmm.
So that sounds theoretical. Maybe a practical example. Every Monday, I coach a group of people, the Joint Venture Club, which
Mm-hmm.
is entrepreneurs who become joint venture partners for each other.
Right.
And
Sure.
so last Monday, I said, hey guys, let's do this exercise. It's just two axes on a slide. One axis was, this is fun right now. And the other axis was, this is fun in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, map all your marketing activities there, depending on, are they fun right now? High, low, are they fun later? Now that sounds like such a simple exercise, and it is a very simple exercise. It took us 10 minutes. 15 people had their sweet spot. They found activities that are fun right now, and they will be fun in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, guys, let's look at those activities, right? Let's pick the top three. They picked the top three. For example, podcast, writing the next book,
Mm-hmm.
and having your own blog on your own website. Now let's see how they compound over 10 years. Let's say you have your blog. Right now you have 4,000 readers. Of those, 20 per week become your subscriber,
Mm-hmm.
which is a realistic number for that
Yeah.
group. And I said, let's see how this compounds over 10 years. So 50 weeks in a year times 10. And they were, whoa, Simon, that's an amazing audience. That's a city. It's a proper city that's following me. And I said, yeah, because the problem, one of the mistakes we do, we overestimate short-term capabilities and we underestimate the compounding effect over 10 years.
Mhm.
So I train myself and my clients to think in 10 years. And when we do that, you see the compounding effects. And compound effects are not linear anymore. They are exponential.
Mhm.
And we are not even yet talking about technological innovations like AI that will literally bring an exponential boost over the next years. Without that, just a compounding effect of those things. And another example that we do also in the Monday meeting is those three things: activities that improve just by 10% your number of clients, just by 10% the pricing power, so the price that you can command for the same offer, and just by 10% the sales frequency, either shortening the sales time or expanding them, keeping them longer, you would think, okay, 10%, 10%, 10%, that's a nothing burger, right? It's not worth doing it. It compounds extremely well. We run spreadsheets with those numbers, and we change just 10% to 5% across those three categories. And I get wows every time we do that, and people, oh, I didn't think that compounds that way. So also internal compounding is a second thing, that where people think too linearly. They think 10 and 10 and 10 doesn't make much. It does. It compounds.
It compounds, yeah. And that's an interesting thought. I tend to think about strategy as solving your challenges. I mean, that keep you from reaching your ambitions. So it's also about kind of thinking about 5, maybe 10 years out, but then bringing it back to, so what is keeping us today? What are the challenges we need to solve today? But I like this idea of focusing on compounding small activities, maybe, which, that compound actually into something larger. I guess the challenge that many CEOs and business owners might have with this is that they are quite impatient, though. They want to see big results quickly. So how do you convince them to focus on these smaller things that might make a bigger impact in some time, right?
I feel with them. I'm the same. I'm super impatient. Like, I needed to work now this week. And our metrics are weekly metrics. So in every sprint, also our own metrics, every Friday we measure the main marketing number, the main sales number, the main ops number. And they better go up every week. Otherwise, that meeting is not a fun meeting. So I am impatient, and I understand everybody who runs a business. Stay impatient. That's why I do that exercise, because our activities, our decisions, of course, they are on a daily basis, and they should have an impact on a weekly basis, a measurable impact. But at the same time, if you just look at 7 days, you are at high risk of running in the wrong direction with a fast pace. And so if you're the fastest guy in a marathon, but you're running in the wrong direction.
And the 7 days helps to kind of course adjust there.
The 7 days itself tells you not just speed, but also velocity. And when you combine that with the 10 years exercise, will this compound? Now you have also direction in there, because you know that it compounds over time. And then the third thing that we do, we call this the focus card. So on one page, we have the 3 years goals, 1 year goal, 90 days activities, and the metrics. And they are visually on one page, so that you have to double check if the things actually contribute to the parent task. For example, Simon, your YouTube subscriber rate is growing at that is growing by 75 per week. Okay, so what? Does it contribute to anything in 10 years? So Simon will get challenged, because I can be passionate about, and I'm usually passionate about the marketing activities, because they're just fun for me. They're creative, and I can express myself. So I usually tend towards marketing activities. And then my team brings me back and says, yeah, but Simon, the sales activities are the ones that move the needle forward. And then I go, okay, show me the numbers. And then we look at the 10 years, we look at the 3 years, we look at the 1 year. The best argument will win. We have to show each other that our assumptions are backed by those, let's call them mini trends or weak trends. And you can see the weak signals on a weekly basis. And when you extrapolate them on a 1 year and 3 year basis, you see if your argument has actually some material, or if it's just my passion for marketing.
Right. Now, I mean, you talk a lot about the tracking. Do you only track results, or do you also track actions? I'm asking because, in my work, so when we work with companies, usually they are very good at tracking KPIs, but that's just the output, right? And what we need to track is the activities, kind of the input, what we're doing on a daily basis. Is that actually in line with our strategy or not? Because otherwise, if after like 3 months or 6 months, you look at the KPIs, you haven't hit them, then it's too late, right? So you need to track also the input that you're putting into the strategy work.
Yes, great question. Inputs and outputs. So on a team level, we only track 3 outputs: a marketing output, a sales output, an operations output.
Right.
On an individual level, every individual has to track inputs, because the inputs is basically your calendar, what you put in your calendar.
Right.
And so,
Exactly.
especially, for example, the sales teams that we coach, they have a spreadsheet on an individual level, and it says, okay, I will call so many past clients per week. And then they have to put in the standard. So let's say it's 3 as a target.
Yeah.
And then they have to write the current of that week. Oh, that week it was 4. That week it was 2. So, for example, a typical sales tracker for the sales teams that we coach is how many past clients did I call this week, current clients that I called this week, how many lunches or informal meetings did I have with people of influence in my field, how many follow-up emails did I send out of the CRM, from the middle of the CRM, how many articles about the topic that interests people did I send. So on the individual level, it would be inputs, number of calls, number of emails, number of events attended. But as a team, that would be boring as hell. So as a team, we just want half an hour, 3 numbers that give us that flow feeling. Hey, we all did all this stuff the whole week, but now we want to see results. Now we want to get back what we have inputted. Now we want to see the score and be proud and go into the weekend.
That's interesting that you kind of what you say about on the team level, this is boring. Right? But I guess if you didn't hit the numbers at the end of the week, then you go back to, did everybody do what they were supposed to do? Right?
Yes. So it's always a calibration, right? What do we need to do so that our team is in flow? There is a minimum of inputs and inputs tracking that needs to happen. Otherwise, you are not in control of the situation, and you are missing the weak signals. But on a team level, you have to simplify and you have to give them wins, ideally on a weekly basis. That's why we work on with the weekly cadence. And some of our clients say, okay, the weekly is too tough. Can I do this monthly? And at least monthly, you should gamify and you should have wins and a scoreboard and some, feedback. Hey, I did all these activities. I want to see that I am winning, that I am contributing to a bigger thing, and that we are moving the ball forward.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Usually during these meetings, you always review stuff that's not working, right?
Oh, that's a terrible meeting.
But that's typically what you do, right? You review all the things that are kind of keeping you from moving forward, right? I mean, if you do Agile, the Scrum meeting is all about, so what are you doing? What is keeping you from moving forward, right? So you
terrible. Stop doing that stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess if you have big problems, then you also need to talk about them and see how you get rid of them, right?
No, you need to solve them and come together and celebrate that you solved them.
And then,
talking about problems seldomly dissolves them.
Obviously, you dissolve them, and then celebrate that you did so. Yeah, cool. We have another question about AI from Adelina in the chat. So she asks about if you could give her an example or us an example of a good prompt question to do competitive analysis.
Oh, yes. So from the top of my head.
Well, you talked about you have a whole list then that you would be willing to share that, or is that so we can just put maybe afterwards we're going to share the link, but if you have something from the top of your head.
Yes, happy to share afterwards. And let me try to remember some. So the first 10, they train the machine. They say like, tell me about the weaknesses of my main competitor. Tell me about their strengths. Find gaps in their offering. Find gaps in where my people are working with them, but their needs are underserved. Now give me ideas how I can fill those needs. Now create a table that shows me visually my strengths versus their strengths. Now create a table with 5 ideas for marketing campaigns, how I can address those gaps. Create 50 headlines for the content of that marketing campaign. Then you copy and paste each headline and say, write an email about that, with the call to action being, hey, let's hop on a call that links to my calendar. These are some examples, and you can go very
deep side and using it for marketing and sales. And so I'm just curious. I mean, if you ask AI about the gaps in what competitors are offering, is it really good to kind of identify those? Right?
It's really good.
Really,
it's really good. Yes, because it is crawling. So all these things that we were doing manually, you remember 10 years ago, you would analyze for weeks, for months, for clients. You had to go to Amazon, read all those reviews, Google reviews, to find what the clients love, what they are irritated about, what frustrates them, and then you had to cluster all those things. And it was a ton of work. So now with the plugin, you need a real-time plugin and you need the paid version of ChatGPT, for example, or Bart. But then with those real-time plugins, they crawl in a second. They crawl the whole Amazon reviews. So for example, you are a book author, that will be an information point. So I am not that big of a brand, and my method is not even a globally known method, but it's telling me exactly how the strategy sprints method compares in the 4 most important categories against my top 3 competitors. And it's really nuanced. And I was like, where did you get all this information from? If you write a book, if you run a podcast, if you are findable online because you post a lot on LinkedIn, so you are very findable, this thing really works. It finds the information.
Cool. We gotta try more of that too. So Adelina, we're gonna share the link with the prompts afterwards in the comments. Got another question here by Abdul about sales strategies, key strategies. What we would recommend also looking at 24 and a possible slowdown in the global economy. So is that, I mean, talking a little bit about the recession, some people say there is one, some people say no, some people say there might be one, not sure whether it's a minor one or a bigger one. Well, what do your clients say about that, or what are the concerns they have? Do they have any concerns?
So the markets, they are rebounding. The economy is in a recession in many countries. Like Germany is in a deep recession since now almost a year. They don't call it that way, but it's negative growing since now a year. So Europe has quite a bit to go yet in recessionary periods. The US is coming out of a recession, is moving into an election year. I'm looking every day for my own portfolio management. I'm looking every day at the liquidity cycles. And so what I am seeing is we have 4-year cycles that let's call them business cycles. And they started 2008 because 2008, I'll try to say it in a short way. So most countries, they had more debt than they could finance. And so they started printing money to refinance the debt. And those new debt on the old debt had a duration of around 4 years. So every 4 years, they have to repay the debt, but they never pay it back. They take on new debt. And how you do it? By creating money out of thin air. So every 4 years, the economy has an input, a liquidity input. We are right now at the beginning of that liquidity input. And we are in a pre-election year in the US. So expect markets in a bull run from now on. And we are seeing spring right now, market spring, and we will see market summers very soon, starting January. So the markets are actually rebounding and in an upward cycle.
So if you're talking about markets, you're talking about the stock market. Just to...
mainly the stock markets. The economies in Europe, recessionary, in the US, coming back from a recession. In terms of sales, the teams that we are seeing, and also our own sales, summer was super tough. People had a very rough summer. It took more conversations to land a client. The sales cycles were even longer than usual. But that's getting now. October, November was much better from what we are seeing across all the board. People are spending again. They are positive again. So to sum it up, I see a rebound. We are in the spring. Winter is over. We are in the spring situation.
Okay. And what kind of, so in this kind of situation, what would you recommend from a sales perspective, from a sales strategy perspective? What should companies do?
So in spring, you want to have all your cylinders ready to fire. And how do you do that? We focus on the 3 revenue components. Shorten your sales time, increase your sales frequency, increase your pricing power, because that's your, be in a strong position. And on a cash flow or P&L side, that means reduce your costs, but not a total reduction of costs. Make them dependent on the profits. So turn your costs from fixed costs into variable costs. What does it mean? If you're paying somebody for PR, don't pay them a lump sum per month and hope that they land you in the New York Times. Have a performance-based contract with them. So they get 3,000 if they land you in the Wall Street Journal. They get 40,000 if they land you in the New York Times. And it's dynamic upon performance. And the same thing you can do with almost all big cost positions that you have. I did not found one big cost position where you cannot do that. The theory or the idea is, when you have low revenues, make sure the costs are low or almost zero. And when you have more work, then the costs, they grow with you, but from the profits, not as a lump sum, something that creates pressure upon you. To me, a strong position is a position where your pricing power is strong. You are a price giver, not a price taker. And you are not under pressure. Pressure comes from your fixed costs. The higher the fixed costs, the more you are under pressure. And also on the sales side, don't have just commission based for your salespeople, because otherwise they are constantly under pressure. So I'm looking at how can I make costs more flexible, and how can I take away pressure from my people, from my team, so that if we have a tough month, at least we can navigate that with ease, because our costs are low. We are ready to rumble when the opportunities come, and that makes it resilient.
Cool. Now, I mean, you talked a lot about the 3 kind of levels: the price, reducing the cycle, and then doing resales or extending the lifetime of the customer, I guess. So can you tell us a little bit about how you do these? So let's start with sales cycle reduction. What are the key strategies or tactics that you apply there to do that?
Yeah. So month 1, improving the pricing power. The first exercise is the strategic value. That's this blue thing that you see here behind me. The strategic value is 6 questions that drive you towards what is it that you actually deliver in terms of value. Because when you ask people, okay, what can I buy from you? They tell you features. But what is it that they are actually buying from you? So in some schools,
outcome.
Yes, it's actually an outcome, right? You don't buy the drill, you buy a hole in the wall because you want to put a picture there.
Right. You actually by the picture I'm putting up. That's all you
Exactly.
want.
Exactly. In some schools, they call it the job to be done, right? It's always a temporary thing and it's outcome based. So the strategic value exercise takes us around 1 day to make clear in which business are you really in and what are people really buying from you.
So again, we are back to strategy.
Yes, it's all strategy, but don't tell anybody. The next exercise is pricing power. There are 9 moves that you can do to increase your pricing power, to be less of a price taker and more of a price giver. And those moves can be brand, can be community, can be flywheels. There are different things that one can do there. That's again strategy. And we go through those moves and we identify 1 or 2 that can be implemented quickly. We go for them. The next exercise is then making the sales more repeatable. There are 8 steps in a B2B sales situation. We do only B2B, where it's high ticket and it's very relationship based. So in that situation, there are 8 things that you have to go to do right. And so we share those 8 things. We get their sales recordings and we give them feedback on the exact words that they used and the order of things. If they skip one of those steps, it usually backfires and they lose the deal. But if they go through them in the right order, the win rate is higher.
Okay.
Then we go to the offer itself. There are 100 points that this offer can have. There is a huge checklist. And so in each category, it's 10 categories. Risk reversal. Do you have something like a guarantee or an exit option? Outcome, packaging. There are subtopics in the offer. And so we go and refine really how the offer is presented, how the offer can reduce the risk on the buyer side, and how to make it easy for the buyer to buy. And then the last piece is branding. Is it clear? Do you get across what you stand for? And is it coherent? You do those 5 things, you are now in a stronger position and you can charge a higher price for the same offer.
Okay, cool. Now I just put the link there for the tools. I mean, some of the tools that you mentioned, they are available for free download at your website. Right. So folks, if you're interested in that, then just head over to strategysprints.com/tools where you can download some of that stuff.
Mark, you know that I learned this from you actually. That open source beats walled gardens. I don't know if you remember, but it was like 15 years ago.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and we were on some projects together, and you had a slide with the 9-inch nails, and you showed that their strategy was better than others because they were just open source and I was like, oh yeah, he's right. And since then, I'm an open source kind of guy. Whatever I develop, I'm happy to share because it gets better. I get feedback, and usually people are very positive and have a healthy way of doing it. And you install reciprocity. So if over months they get a ton of value from my emails, at some point they write me, Simon, I'm getting so much value. How can I pay you? Literally.
Yeah. I mean, especially in the online world, it's all about offering value before you do the ask, right? That's what they say. Now, guys, if you have any other questions, just put them into the comments. Don't see anything coming up now. I have to say though, I had some issues here with my LinkedIn, so I'm not sure whether I'm seeing all the questions. So if I don't see them, just keep on posting. Simon, I mean, we're coming kind of towards the end here. Any key piece of advice that you would give our listeners when it comes to sales strategy? If you just had to give one piece of advice, what would that kind of be?
It would be keep rolling. And what I mean is And this is what I learned from my first boss, actually. He said, Simon, capitalism is not a game that's about maximizing revenue or even profitability. It's not. It's what's the minimum profit you need, net profit every month to stay in the game, to stay liquid. Because it's a series of sprints. If you can stay longer, you know more, you are more resilient, you deliver better quality. And so actually, the main game is not how can I shoot for maximum revenues quickly. The main game is just stay in the game.
Right.
If you look at podcasters, most podcasters, they just win because 99% of podcasters gives up too early. And the same thing is probably going on in your industry. 70% of the people, they just give up, they go insolvent, they burn out. So if you just can stay in the game, you are winning already.
Yeah.
Because in 3 years from now, half of your competition will be gone and you are still there. So how can you do that? Prioritize the things that are fun already, fun this week. And so if you do things that are fun this week and move the needle forward, chances are you will be around in 3 years. You don't burn out.
Yeah, I think the fun aspect is something important, right? Lots of companies, they don't have much fun, and I guess from all the engagement, the low engagement numbers that you keep seeing around the world, and quiet quitting and all these things, people don't have too much fun on at work, right? And it's kind of interesting. I hear more and more customers actually, when we have discussions around strategy, mentioning that they want to stay relevant. So it's kind of the same like staying in the game. So figuring out how we stay relevant for our customers, so that we can actually play along, right? And then so how to do that.
Yes, and when you say stay relevant, that means also listening to your people if their needs are changing, or if your assumptions about their needs are still the same. So you're doing the same thing, but their life has changed, and so their needs have changed. Are their needs really the same, or are they changing? Then, in order to stay relevant, you have to listen to that and to pivot.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the whole idea of, you do it in sprints, but that whole idea of, I call it always on strategy, kind of, you need to work through strategy in iterative cycles to make sure that you adjust to what is happening around you, changing customer behavior, new challenges coming up that need to be addressed constantly. And so, I always say these challenges, they don't happen on a yearly offsite, right? So that's not that's why you need to keep on doing it all the time, and you can't wait until the end of the year when you have your retreat to work on strategy. Excellent. Well, thanks a lot, Simon. So if you guys have any other questions, just put them in the comments. We can also keep on answering them afterwards. So I can highly recommend, again, that you get a copy of Simon's book, Strategy Sprints, where he outlines all the details of the stuff that he has been talking about. If you like the LinkedIn Live, the next one is coming up only next week. Completely different topic. Here we talk about strategy in the boardroom and what non-executive directors can do in strategy, what they expect from strategy. So yeah, if you like the format, then looking forward to seeing you there. And with that, Simon, thank you very much for being here today, and all the best.
Thank you, Marc, for showing up for your community with consistency and staying relevant. Keep rolling, man.
Great, thanks.